Hello and welcome back to the Military Matrix. Tonight, we bring you breaking news from the heart of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, where Ukrainian forces have launched a daring and highly sophisticated underwater strike that has stunned the world. In what Kiev calls a strategic punishment strike, Ukraine has successfully blown up part of Russia's vital Kerch Bridge, the lifeline that connects the Russian mainland to occupied Crimea. The attack, caught on camera, shows a powerful explosion erupting from beneath the water's surface, sending a massive column of debris, water, and fire high into the early morning sky. This is not just another battlefield, it's a major blow aimed at Russia's logistics, symbolism, and morale. The footage, verified by Ukrainian intelligence and analyzed by military experts, shows the precise moment when an underwater charge detonated near one of the bridge's key pillars. The Kerch Bridge, stretching nearly 19 kilometers across the Kerch Strait, has long been the pride of Moscow's control over Crimea and a crucial artery for moving troops, fuel, and supplies to the occupied south of Ukraine. Built in 2018 and personally inaugurated by Vladimir Putin, it has stood as both a physical and political statement of Russian permanence in Crimea. Now that very symbol is under fire again, as Ukraine makes it clear that nowhere under Russian control is beyond its reach. Ukrainian security officials confirmed that the operation was carried out by the SBU, Ukraine's security service, working with the Navy's Special Operations Forces. The strike was not impulsive, it was months in the making. Sources close to the operation revealed that roughly 1,000 kilograms of explosives were carefully planted underwater near the bridge's structural base. The plan involved weeks of reconnaissance, drone mapping, and coordination with intelligence gathered through satellite surveillance and local resistance networks inside occupied Crimea. The detonation, timed during low traffic hours, caused a shockwave felt kilometers away and temporarily halted all traffic between Crimea and Russia. Within minutes of the explosion, videos began circulating on social media, a glowing flash, followed by a thunderous roar and a geyser of seawater and debris rising from beneath the bridge. Eyewitnesses from both sides of the strait reported hearing the blast before dawn, describing it as one of the loudest explosions since the start of the war. Russian officials were quick to issue statements claiming that the bridge remained structurally intact. Yet satellite images and independent analysts suggest visible damage to at least one support pillar. While repairs are reportedly underway, movement across the bridge was suspended for several hours, causing traffic gridlock and disrupting military supply convoys headed into occupied Crimea. For Ukraine, this strike is more than a tactical victory, it's psychological warfare. Kiev's message is loud and clear. Even Russia's most heavily guarded infrastructure is vulnerable. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed the operation as a decisive step toward liberating Crimea, while SBU Chief Vasyl Malyuk described the bridge as a legitimate military target used by the occupiers to fuel their war. The operation also comes at a politically charged moment, just as Ukraine pushes for greater Western support and new aid packages. By showcasing such operational precision, Ukraine demonstrates its continued capability to deliver impactful results even in the face of Russian air superiority. From the Russian side, the response has been a mix of denial, damage control, and defiance. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov confirmed that an explosion had occurred, but insisted that the bridge remains operational. Russian media, under state directives, downplayed the attack, focusing instead on immediate repair efforts and praising emergency workers for their rapid response. However, internally, Russian telegram channels tell a different story, one of panic, halted logistics, and a significant bottleneck in troop movements towards southern Ukraine. Truck drivers were reportedly stranded for hours, while ferries across the strait were overwhelmed as Moscow scrambled to reroute supplies. The Kerch Bridge has been attacked before, notably in 2022 and again in 2023, but this latest strike is different. Unlike previous drone or truck bomb attacks, this was a covert underwater operation that bypassed Russia's air defenses entirely. Military analysts describe it as a new phase of asymmetric warfare, showing how Ukraine's intelligence services have evolved into a technologically advanced and highly adaptive force. By targeting the bridge's foundation underwater, Ukrainian engineers aimed at the bridge's weakest point, where Russian surveillance and protection are minimal. Experts believe the choice of timing before dawn, with minimal civilian movement, underscores the precision and discipline behind the strike. Strategically, this explosion deals a heavy blow to Russia's logistics. The Kerch Bridge is not just a road. It's a vital supply artery feeding Russia's entire southern front. Tanks, ammunition, food, and fuel flow through it daily to sustain the war effort in occupied Kherson, Zaporizhia, and beyond. Damaging this route forces Moscow to reroute supplies through longer and more vulnerable land corridors, stretching resources thin and slowing the Russian military's tempo. Every kilometer of delay in supply delivery translates to weaker offensive potential and increased vulnerability to Ukrainian counterattacks. For Ukraine, disrupting Russia's supply chain has been a cornerstone strategy since 2022, and this strike proves that strategy is alive and well. But beyond logistics, this attack cuts deep into Russia's political narrative. The Kerch Bridge has always been more than steel and concrete. It's a symbol of Moscow's claim over Crimea, a monument to Putin's legacy, and a propaganda tool projecting control. Each strike against it shakes that image, reminding Russians that the war they started continues to creep closer to their symbolic heartlands. It also raises questions within Russia about the security of infrastructure, once thought untouchable. For Putin, whose approval has often hinged on projecting strength, this new humiliation could intensify domestic pressure and fuel dissent, especially among hardliners already critical of the military's performance. Internationally, the reaction has been swift. Western governments have largely refrained from commenting publicly, but defense analysts across Europe and the United States see the strike as a bold and effective escalation. NATO intelligence officials, speaking anonymously, reportedly described it as one of the most sophisticated covert demolitions carried out in modern warfare. Meanwhile, Russian allies like China and Belarus have maintained silence, wary of being drawn further into a conflict that continues to escalate. The United Nations has urged restraint, but for Kiev, this operation marks progress proof that its military innovation and resilience continue to evolve even under enormous pressure. For the people of Crimea, the explosion brought a mix of fear and realization. Videos from local residents show columns of smoke rising over the bridge, alarms sounding, and heavy security forces sealing off the area. Civilians reported being blocked from crossing, with many fearing new Ukrainian attacks or retaliatory Russian crackdowns. Ukrainian social media channels flooded with celebratory posts, memes, and patriotic messages calling the strike justice served. Yet, amid the celebration, Ukraine's military command maintained a professional tone, emphasizing that the attack targeted only military infrastructure and avoided civilian casualties. The broader implications are immense. Military experts say that repeated strikes on such high-value targets will slowly choke Russia's operational capacity in southern Ukraine, possibly forcing Moscow to rely on maritime supply routes that are slower and more vulnerable to drone or missile attacks. It also signals that Ukraine's intelligence operations inside Crimea remain active and effective, suggesting the presence of deep networks capable of gathering critical data under occupation. For Russia, this will mean pouring more resources into defending not just the front lines, but every bridge, depot, and port connected to its war machine, stretching its defenses even thinner. As the smoke clears, the question remains, what comes next? Will Ukraine continue this campaign of deep strikes to isolate Crimea completely? Or will Russia retaliate with a new wave of missile attacks across Ukrainian cities? History shows that the Kremlin rarely lets such humiliations go unanswered. Analysts predict an uptick in missile and drone strikes against Ukrainian infrastructure, possibly energy grids, bridges, and railways. But with each counterattack, Russia risks further international condemnation and renewed sanctions. In the meantime, Ukrainian morale soars. The site of the Kerch Bridge, once thought indestructible, shrouded in smoke, once again serves as a rallying cry. Across Ukrainian cities, from Kiev to Odessa, citizens shared messages of pride, calling the operation a reminder that their fight for freedom continues to gain ground. For a war that has dragged on for over 3 years, moments like this matter. They reignite belief, determination, and the sense that victory, though distant, is not impossible. This is not just a battle over territory, it's a battle of willpower, intelligence, and innovation. And in this latest chapter, Ukraine has once again proven that it can rewrite the rules of modern warfare. From underwater sabotage to drone warfare, the conflict has transformed into a constant game of adaptation and surprise. Each strike, each response, reshapes the battlefield both physically and psychologically. As night falls over the Black Sea, Russia faces yet another dilemma: to rebuild, to retaliate, or to rethink its strategy entirely. What began as an unprovoked invasion has evolved into a war of attrition, and with every Ukrainian strike, the cracks in Russia's armor grow deeper. The world watches closely, wondering if this latest attack could be the beginning of a turning point. For now, Ukraine celebrates a victory not of territory, but of message that strength is not only measured in numbers, but in precision, strategy, and courage. This is the Military Matrix, bringing you the full story behind the headlines. Stay tuned for continued updates, and remember, in modern warfare, no bridge is ever just a bridge.